right, thank you for coming, being here.
Thanks for having me.
Very excited for this. Where did you grow up?
I grew up here on Nantucket, but sometimes the answer to that I say that I lived here until I was 16, and then I went away to boarding school and did all my growing up as fast as I possibly could because it was very different being in America than it was growing up on Nantucket.
Um, what about your parents? What did they do?
Well, my father was a fisherman, and he knew the Latin name of everything that he caught, everything that came up in the scallop dredge, from the tiniest stickleback to, he knew a lot of birds. My mother was an ornithologist who trained at Cornell University with Doc Allen. She had a master's degree in science, which was not really all that common in the 1940s and 50s. And they met at the Maria Mitchell Association. And when my parents got married, Eileen McGrath, they put up a sign on the door of the museum saying, "Museum closed this afternoon, ornithologist marrying ichthyologist."
That's interesting. Is there someone you look up to?
Well, my mother, of course, because she could be difficult as a parent, but as I got to know her when we were both older, I could really appreciate some of the difficulties that she had had as a woman in science in those years when that wasn't really something that people did, particularly people of the female gender.
Do you have a favorite childhood memory?
Yeah, I guess it's not really a childhood. I'm not sure how old I was, but I just remember being at, I think it was at Eel Point with my parents, and they were off doing something in the boat, and I just loved it was just one of those beautiful evenings with the light and the water and, the tide changing, and it was, I have so many memories of the beauty of Nantucket and, or going out and having a winter picnic at Great Point, and just going around to different places with my parents.
That's nice. So I heard that you had an interest in birds. Do you remember when that started?
Well, I grew up immersed with birds because my mother would say that she never would refuse a bird, so living, dead, or injured. So we grew up with a lot of injured birds, and I grew up with in the house, and there were barn owls that came, and one lived with us. It only had one wing, but my father built it a house, and I used to catch mice for it. And there was a meadowlark that I think it was I forget if it was a broken leg or a broken wing, but it spent the winter with us. And it was loose in the house, and it just, would hop around the kitchen table. I'd be writing my homework, and it would kind of peck at the pen like it was another bird. It's like, what are you eating there? What is that? Because I work for Maria Mitchell as their field ornithologist, I'm always birding, so I'm always looking for birds. So I guess that kind of could count as work, but I love what I do, so I just count as work. Anything that I get paid to do is work, and so in a way I'm working all the time, or I'm thinking about something I'm writing. I've always loved to write also. Sometimes my mother and I would go off to visit her relatives in New Jersey, and I would get to tell about our trip, which was pretty cool that they let me, when I was a kid, tell the story of what we did.
As an ornithologist, what is one of your favorite things about that?
The unpredictability of it. Someone the other day said, well, the birding is a lot like fishing, except for you can go fishing and never catch anything, but you can always pretty much count on seeing at least one bird. So that's one of the cool things about birding. They're so you can see them. You can miss a bird that is around by like 5 minutes. Everybody else has seen it, and you didn't get to. But that's birding, and they come and go, and they're such independent creatures, and they're also really incredibly beautiful.
Do you have a favorite?
my favorite bird is, I always say what my mother said, my favorite bird is the one I'm looking at. So it's you can't pick a favorite because they're all interesting in different ways.
Yeah.
And then I took some time off and I came back to Nantucket. And I worked for the theater workshop and I went scalloping with my dad and did odd jobs. I did silk screening for other artists. So I was here for 2 or 3 years and then I went back to finish college. I liked working in the theater. I did some lighting, I think. I ran the light board. I stage managed. I helped build sets. I liked those sort of things. I look up to Mac Dixon, who was the director of the theater when I was here working for the theater back in the early 70s and beyond. He was such a gentleman, and he was very tactful, and he was also very realistic, but he had a real gift for bringing things out of people through the theater, but also in the theater.
What advice do you have for me?
Well, just pretty much think for yourself, speak your truth. Just don't accept somebody else's word for how you're supposed to feel. Feel your own feelings and make your own decisions.
That's good advice.
Yeah. Well, also wait until you have enough information to make a decision.
True.
If you know that there's something that you're not confident of or that feels incomplete, just wait. Do research.
Once again, I'd like to thank you for letting us interview you. It's been a great time.
Thank you.
It's been
It's
very
been fun for
interesting,
me,
so
too.
thanks for coming. One thing I thought was interesting was that Ginger loves Nantucket so much that she decided to stay here.
One thing I thought was interesting was how she got inspired by her mom to work with birds.